All right, so this is my first Real Housewives of Salt Lake City recap and gossip session. Yeah, my first one. Now, I did cover episode 1 and 2 in a Dishing Drama Dana Wilkie podcast. I think it's episode 99. And I spilled a lot of tea in that podcast. So if you enjoy this video, you might want to join the Patreon and listen to episode 99 because it's really a good one. Okay? And there's lots of tea about all the new housewives that haven't shown up on the show yet. There's lots to know about them if you want to get ahead of the game. And that's also in there, as well as an episode I did, part 1 and part 2, the Shady Ladies of Salt Lake City, which a lot of that has played out now because before Jen Shah got arrested, I had talked about all that. But there's still stuff to uncover, crazy stuff in there. And also in my bonus audios, I've spilled a lot of tea about the women on the show. So get in there. And if you can't find something, just reach out to me. I'm like the librarian of the Patreon. All right, so let's get in it. Thanks, Patreons, for funding this video. Love, love, love you. I am going for my mammogram tomorrow, guys, so wish me luck. Wish me luck. Meredith sent me a beautiful denim jacket with pink faux fur inside, super soft. The box was awesome. The quality of the jacket was ridiculous. She did it totally out of her own, just being a real sweetie, because I had commented that I loved Sarah Janes from Salt Lake. She's on the show occasionally. You'll see her as like a side cast, she was casting for it or whatever, and she was on the show. She didn't want to do it. But anyway, so Sarah Jane had this jacket. I died for it, but it was way out of my price range because I'm a single mom and I'm like poor now. I don't get child support and a million other problems. So Meredith was kind enough, on her own accord, literally no other reason. Didn't ask. She just out of her own sweetness of her heart sent a jacket to me. I didn't even know. She didn't expect anything in return. It said a lot about her, just saying. And I do believe, it wasn't like Meredith didn't get gossiped about by me. I did. I looked into her, and initially I had thought that she was had absolutely an all housewives style, criticized how she was always selling stuff on the show, and I had called out, I don't know, some other stuff early on. But then I also recognized that she was an established designer. I found out that she had been around for a long time in the scene in New York and, was really legitimate in that way. Yeah. So she did it really just to say, hey, this is who I am and I could do that for you. And I thought that was really cool. Yeah. I like people who do random acts of kindness. It really impresses upon me. It's happened a few times in my life. Some really crazy stories. I left home at 15. So I had people do some random acts of kindness to me that changed my life forever. So it's wonderful when it happens. Yeah, it's wonderful. Okay, let's get into the gossip. This is a recap on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episode 3. And we're going to begin with Whitney Rose. Whitney Rose is having a bit of an identity crisis on this season, and it's coming from the fact that she believes that she has been abused in some way. And she is suggesting in the first few episodes of the season that she has blocked out or repressed all of her memories from age 9 to 17. And so it happened somehow related to a bathroom. She kind of alleges that the Mormon church might have been involved, but she doesn't say who the abuser is. Somehow her brothers and sisters from the many relationships that her dad had are involved, and they are, I guess, saying that they believe she's been abused too. The gossip is that Whitney Rose's husband lost his job, but they haven't said it yet on the show, and she's really desperate. And that some of the cast members don't believe that she was abused when she was young. But they're not going to say it. But they think that it's suddenly coming out of left field. No one had any indicator prior to this. And it seems weird to people that she can't remember like 10 years of her life. Okay, I've said it. Now, Whitney has already responded because she's sensitive to this, because she probably knows it already, that this is how like some of the cast are feeling. And she said that anyone who doesn't believe her is disgusting. So if you sense a little of that as you're watching the show in people's expressions or sort of how they're acting, like, whoa, that came out of left field, that's because behind the scenes, there's a little chatter about, is this really true or is this for the show? And I think some people felt like Whitney was feeling like she was losing her grip on her role and that she had to really bring it, which made her turn on Heather because she realized she couldn't be her sidekick forever and still be on the show. So something made Whitney go, okay, I better bring it like I've never brought it in my life or I'm going to lose my slot. Not to mention the fact that nobody wants the show to go away. And with Jen going to jail soon, shows up in the air. They're casting like crazy, but it's not easy to cast this show in Utah. Surprisingly, there's a lot of women that like the idea of it, but they definitely don't want to go on the show that's bashing their religion or, you know, they're going to be shown to be doing something that is like anti what their community would support. Utah's all about that. Remember, right? Voltaire from season 1? Rest in peace, Voltaire. He passed away recently. So sad. So I wanted to honor him in this video. He died September 21st, 2022. He's so cute, and he was so good to put up with all that Real Housewives of Salt Lake City fighting between Jen Shaw and Mary Cosby in season 1. He's been in the Italian restaurant business in Salt Lake City a long, long time, and he was really a community staple. So this is my shout out to Walter, one of my favorite bit characters of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Sweetheart, you made such an impression. I only wish I could have eaten at your restaurant, Voltaire's. Osteria. A lot of people criticized Meredith Marks for becoming friends with Jen Shaw, and I get it because it was weird. It's like Meredith seems to be an ex-lawyer who's like on the good guy's side, and why would she be friends with Jen Shaw, who's basically been a villain for 2 seasons and then got indicted for committing fraud on the elderly? You know, I'm generalizing that, but you get the drift. And then, you know, is facing up to 12 years in prison. I was curious about this, and I heard a lot of interviews, but they weren't really nailing it, you know, and I was like, what the hell is this? And then I found out from some little birdies in Salt Lake City that were flying around, and this was not from Meredith, this was from little birdies that were flying around. They like the snow. And what they heard was that Meredith is really, really sensitive about people's mental health. This can be seen in actually this week's episode 3, because Meredith, who actually mentioned this in the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion, I believe season 2, said that she had been going through a lot because she lost her father, but she also had a very close young friend of the family try to commit suicide. Now, I thought actually the person did commit suicide, but I guess it was just attempted. So Meredith is very sensitive to people who are in very high stress or mentally challenging situations. And Jen Shaw has already said on camera that she's feeling suicidal. And so I think Meredith's position is that she doesn't want to push any person who's feeling that much on the edge because she's super sensitive about mental health. I get it, because look at my season 2. Someone actually killed themselves in season 2 of my show, of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So I get it. Reality TV is not for everyone. the scrutiny, the trolling, the deep dives, the never good enough, the spotlight on every small good thing and bad thing you ever do. It can be too much for people. And Jen is in a very high stress situation at the moment. So I think she thinks that Jen is in a delicate state. And, you know, probably being on the show, she doesn't want to, you know, smash around the china shop, right? She's not that type of person. I've been to hell and back, but you know what? As long as there's a tomorrow, you're okay. It's all going to be okay. And you know what else I've learned too? Is that the stuff that's the most hellish is such great character building stuff. It's the stuff you'll be the most proud of in your life, the things you get over, the things that you work through, you know? Like, I don't talk about my stories of like, oh, look at all these like fun things I did. I'm like, look at this fight I beat, and look at I survived. I was kicked a million times and I made it anyway. And, you know, those are my proudest moments. It's not like my Real Housewives of Beverly Hills moments. No, those aren't my proud moments. It's overcoming huge obstacles. So you just have to rest, you know, so you can do it. Oh, now you know why in episode 3, when Lisa Barlow uses the comment, slit your wrist, it upsets Meredith so much. So just to remind you, episode 3 opens up and we're still in Arizona with all the women in this like kind of weird Arizona house. And we're having dinner and the women are tired. They had done this like, you know, spiritual awakening ceremony and all this stuff. And they're sitting at a table and they're all chatting. And Meredith and Lisa are still mad at each other because Lisa basically said that Meredith was a whore, a trash whore, who slept with all of New York. And at the same time that Lisa's saying this, Meredith is trying to work through problems with her husband. So I would imagine that put a little tension that we didn't see on Meredith and her husband and them trying to figure out their relationship. And so if that really was at a breakdown point, then that would off camera create a lot of drama. And I'd say Meredith doesn't want Salt Lake City people, that's her community, because she's pretty conservative, thinking she's a whore, going around sleeping with all of New York. So I'd say off camera, that pissed her off pretty good. And now she's coming for Lisa to reciprocate the favor and let her know what it's like to have someone mess with your family on a reality show that actually impacts you off camera. So she immediately goes and starts talking about rumors of Lisa Barlow supposedly sleeping with people for investment money for Vita Tequila or to get distribution or whatever in Salt Lake City to benefit the brand. By the way, she's partners with her husband in Vita Tequila. This is when Lisa Barlow throws the I slit my wrist comment. Now, I want you to know that they try to show that she says, I want to slit my wrist a lot. They show one previous flashback from the day before with Whitney in the hot tub where Lisa Barlow says this comment, right? And she seems to be saying it like a slang thing. I don't buy that one bit. That was absolutely meant to be a trigger. Either Lisa Barlow and Whitney Rose came up with that together and they started planting it ahead of time, or production did. And I don't know who it is, but pretty gross, guys. That's all I'm going to say. Morning, they go on party bikes, which like they need to do more drinking, but they go and they do that. And what struck me as weird is as they're driving down the street, there's like nothing happening in Scottsdale, Arizona. So you know how those party bikes make sense in like the middle of South Beach on like Art Deco Drive, or in New Orleans in the middle of like the city where there's like all the partying happening. This was like on a regular boring street, Scottsdale, Arizona, like behind the women, nothing is happening. It was so weird. And then the women start throwing alcohol at each other. Whitney starts stripping on the party bike. Jen dumps liquor all down Whitney's coochie, and then Whitney takes her wet, alcohol-drenched legs and puts them around Jen's head. The closest thing to the level of cringe that I felt is basically this filter. If this filter is making you cringe, it should be. That's how I feel about this scene of them. It served no purpose. Basically what happened, I can tell you from behind the scenes, they got them on this bike. They said, we need like a funny moment. So just get crazy, girls, have fun. And so their idea of getting crazy and having fun was, of course, having an alcohol throwing party and Whitney doing flips on the bike, whatever. They didn't have a lot to work with. So I guess I'll give them props for that. Oh my goodness. Ugh. Women end up going to a Dior fashion show horse performance. So Lisa Barlow arranges for the women to go to see the Escaramuza riders, and they ride side saddle, and they're famous for performing in the Dior fashion show. And this gives Lisa Barlow an opportunity to pull a $25,000 about her Dior boots, which she says like 4 or 5 times how excited she is to be wearing these Dior boots that are vintage. I think they're from the Gaucho collection. I'm doing that from memory. And she's really excited about those boots. And Heather calls out the fact that she said it a bunch of times. Heather, I see you. I know you're trying to do it. Did you know? Love you. Okay. And so that's the whole situation. Part for me was the Escaramuza traditional dresses the women get to put on after. And it's just really neat. I thought that was a cool scene. Okay. So then we leave that, and Whitney's already trying to let everybody know that she wants to, tell Lisa Barlow about what Meredith has said and gossiped about Lisa, which is, of course, that Lisa's sleeping with, people for an opportunity in their Vida Tequila. But more importantly, Whitney wants to come clean that she was talking shit about Lisa too. But she's kind of being more evasive about it. Like, she's not sure how much of that blame she wants to take, but she does want to get it off her chest. Then they all dress up like slutty bitches, and this is night 2. And Lisa Barlow is looking like she's in her pajamas, but everybody else is like hot and sexy. And Whitney is naked. Again, she really, really loves to show off her body, and the producers love it too. So she is naked pretty much, and everybody else is in sexy clothes, and then Lisa Barlow's like in pajamas like she's 6. So that's it. But I get it. I mean, she's still, I guess, practicing Mormon, so she doesn't want her friends to see her like naked on a TV show. And, she might be like insecure. I wouldn't be comfortable on national TV having like every aspect of my body looked at. You know what I mean? I'd be so nervous. Not everyone can be Erica Jane, just take it off for the camera. It's official. We're at Jen Shah's garbage whore party, and the women are, again, only together in lingerie. I don't know. It was weird. So Whitney has decided that she is going to come out, and she's going to say, Lisa Barlow, here's what we said. Meredith and I said about you in our gossip session. And then Meredith and Lisa have a big fight. And Lisa's like, you're supposed to be my friend. And Meredith is like, I don't trust you. I've never trusted you for 20 years. And there's just this big fight that happens. And Whitney is definitely starting it all. And she's doing it very intentionally. It comes across that way. Now, you may remember that Whitney told a very detailed version of the story. She said she knew a very rich man who was a mutual friend of Lisa's that she hooked up with. And Whitney heard that she hooked up with him because she wanted him to invest in Vida Tequila. In this scene, something happens which I can give you some insight on. Whitney Rose gets very, very drunk. Like, inebriated drunk. And when that happens on camera, people have a tendency to say things wrong or look like total idiots, like me, okay? I did it quite a few times on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because sometimes you just are like, you can't do it without alcohol. So you're like, let me just drink myself into an oblivion, then who cares what happens, right? And then the next morning you're like, oh God, I want to die. I don't want to see this ever on edit. So what I think happened here is Whitney Rose got too hammered. And she started to talk about a story she heard from Angie Harrington about Lisa Barlow supposedly blowing two guys that gave Lisa and her husband seats to the jazz festival. And so the idea was that Lisa sucked these guys off to get the tickets so her and her husband could go. It's funny to me. This is so silly. Anyway, and so this is the next level of story, Whitney says. And she says, I heard this story from Angie Harrington. Okay, now let me just tell you something about Angie Harrington as a fashion influencer and other things, because she's not just a Bravo person. Angie would never tell a story like that. She just wouldn't. Okay, so I already know that Whitney either was completely hammered and got the story like all messed up in her drunken, belligerent mind, or outright lied to create herself like another drama moment. I don't know. But I just know Angie's not the type of person to be like, oh, let me tell you a story about, it's just not her. Okay. So I also want to say that I don't believe that Heather ever heard that story come out of Angie's mouth, nor do I think there was any, Heather had heard any of the gossip related to Lisa Barlow before it was said to her during this Arizona trip. I don't think Heather had heard about it. That's my gut. And when she was really acting in the bedroom like, oh my God, what? I think that was truly the first time she heard about this Lisa Barlow gossip. I don't think that was fake. The person who I think really has the detail around this, because she knows someone allegedly that actually slept with Lisa. And out of everyone, she's the only one who's like, that guy over there did it. Okay? So anyway, I think that's why Heather got so upset, because it's just strange, right? Like all of a sudden Whitney and Heather are good friends. Everything's great. And then Whitney says that Heather's a liar and that she knows that Angie said that story and this about the blowjob and the jazz festival and all this stuff. And Heather's like, you're a liar. Like, I never heard this story. I don't know, what the situation is. And Whitney calls Heather a liar and really sets her off, because Heather's not lying. She's telling really the truth. And so she is set off and triggered by Whitney. Okay. And then she pushes Whitney aside. That is when Whitney said, that's it for me and Heather. And behind the cameras, behind the scenes, their relationship disintegrated, from what I heard on the street, was that they don't have a real relationship anymore, that they're angry with each other, and they still are. So they may come together professionally, but they're not like best buds. You know what I'm saying? Like they made it up here, which I think they were, by the way, legit, season 1 and 2. But that has now crumbled, as it does. I always tell everyone, don't go on the show hoping you're going to keep your friendships. You can't keep your friendships on the show. All bets are off. Now, another sidebar, Jen Shah's completely forgotten. She was the reason everybody was going to Arizona, get her mind off going to jail. And she's now sitting with these women and none of them are paying any attention to her, and she's getting no love. And she's supposed to be the reason they're there. By the way, there's a rumor that the house that Jen is shooting in is actually this rich lady's house that she's renting a room in. I don't know, just to shoot or what. And that actually Coach Shah isn't in that house. Shh. if you ask me, my housewives radar says Whitney was the one who really wanted the Lisa Barlow cheating rumor out. And that's because she had the detail. And she told the detail. She didn't just say it like lightheartedly. Okay? But anyway, Lisa, by the way, her reaction of saying I'm an empath, and she starts to panic and cry, and she goes in her room and she's like, I need to call my husband. Okay, so what I got out of that scene from my own experience with being on the show is she was truly panicked. She immediately thought, oh my God, my husband is going to see the show and he is going to want to divorce me, or my kids are going to see the show and they are going to flip out. And she's already on a rocky ship because she's pretending to be, Lisa, a lot of things she is. Show. And I think her kids kind of feel like maybe, maybe she should just be herself, right? Show your real house. Don't show your cousin's house. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't finish college. Say you didn't finish college. Don't act like you're a college graduate. You know what I mean? Just for the sake of making people impressed. Be you. That doesn't mean it's true, but when you're on the show and something like that comes out, you start to panic because your loved ones are going to see the show. It's a little easier for them because her husband's on the show, so he kind of gets it probably better than some of the husbands that don't go on at all. But it's not great. Like, you go home, the cameras are off, and the husband's like, what do you mean they said that you were cheating? Were you? There's like, everyone in the community is going to think you're cheating. Our kids are going to be ridiculed in school. Like, this doesn't stop on the TV show. This trickles into your real life because everyone thinks it's a reality show. So it's got to be real. I'm telling you, she panicked. Panicked. So what's going to annoy me probably for the foreseeable future is that Lisa Barlow and Whitney are going to be friends and they're going to play that friendship out. But I know that it's Whitney who's behind it. I can just tell from my experience. So I believe that Whitney is not Lisa Barlow's friend. In fact, she's the most cutthroat bitch on the show right now. And oh my God, if I was on the show right now, I'd be watching that chick like a hawk. I'd be like, I've got to come for her because she's coming for me. Just a matter of time. Because she's like, take no prisoners. She's now the new Jen Shaw. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. You never know what's going to happen on my channel.